are a hole-in-one. Enjoy the walk-in with Inward Half.
It's the Chase! It's the Chase! Live 1 to 3, Monday through Friday on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. Listen to Chase and his friends on WKG. It's the Chase! It's the Scruffy City! Listen to his friends, and his friends are on WKGN. I'm always taking your calls on the Tennessee Vols. It's the Chase! It's the Chase! It's the Chase!
All right, Knoxville, the Chase is on here on a Wednesday. My name is Chase Thomas, joined alongside Ryan Shumpert of Rocky Top Insider. We're coming to you live from beautiful Knoxville, Tennessee, right here in the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios. Practice fall camp #1 in the books for Tennessee football, and Ryan Shumpert of Rocky Top Insider was there. Ryan, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to be back on here, and glad to. It's not really real football, but we're getting closer. It's a step in the right direction when fall practice begins.
Step in the right direction is the main thing. You and I, we talk about in the group chat. One of my favorite nerdy Tennessee football things is, I'm assuming it's Rick Butler who puts these together, the video part of it, but he has a royalty-free song in his practice videos that I very much love. And when those are back, we are back as a football program. I highly encourage folks to go watch Rocky Top Insider's practice video today, because you'll hear what I'm talking about. And I think listeners of your RTI Press Pass have commented as well that Chase is onto something.
Yeah, I think so. You sent a good, Charlie Brown Christmas GIF today, which was a good one. It's, you get that royalty-free music, and we're ready to roll. Absolutely.
We got a full house. Intern Jay King back with the Brewers at House Divided, radio show divided here.
Sweep incoming. Get out
never
the brooms.
been more over than it is for the Cubs right now.
You just extended Jed Hoyer, though, so things are maybe back. No, not at all?
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, neutral.
The Brewers would be a terrible team to be a fan of, though, because it's like Kentucky baseball to me. We're 162 small ball games a season, where I think, what was the stat? Because I watched the full replay of Cubs Brewers late last night, and they cited some kind of stat. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jay? It's something, a certain amount of like base hits, a certain amount of singles, something small ball related, where I was like, tough watch.
Whatever.
Also here, producer Matt Bailey on the ones and twos. Matt, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Pretty well. Glad to be here.
There you go. You were about to do the Cody.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Good to be here. Good to be anywhere.
I was going to say, he's probably copyrighted that. I don't think you'd jump on the...
Hey, I used to be on that morning show almost daily. So
it's just like in your
it's like ingrained in my head. I got to shout out the freaks every once in a while.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the good folks listening, guess what? You can watch this show. We're live on X. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. You can watch us for all 2 hours here today on Fox Sports Knoxville and Fan Run Sports Radio. Find us on Fan Run Sports on the YouTube channel. If you're watching us there, make sure you give us a thumbs up and comment and join the live stream as well. And you can also listen on that free Fan Run Radio app, along with Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts on demand. So all kinds of different ways you can be a part of the show. You can also call and text us at 865-966-3435 to join the conversation today. 865-966-3435 is the way to join the chase here on a Wednesday. Ryan Shumpert, out of the gate here. We had a whole heck of a lot of people talk yesterday at Tennessee Media Day, both on the coaching front and the player front. I thought Joey Halsley had the most interesting answers, and a lot of good questions were thrown his way yesterday in particular. But in your estimation, having heard everybody talk and talk to a lot of these guys up close and in person, who did you feel had, or what was the most interesting thing you heard from a player or a coach yesterday for the Vols?
I think with Halsley, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head in the sense that he's the most honest slash least coach in the mix. So, it feels like a long time ago now, because there's been so much else that's happened this offseason that's kind of diverted the conversation. But him saying their main priority this year or this offseason as a coaching staff was trying to find a way to get the explosive plays back, especially when they're seeing some of these soft coverage and 3-3-5 defenses that really have taken away the big plays from Tennessee's offense the last 2 years. I thought that was really interesting and kind of refocus things on what needed to be really important. I mean, we talked about it, Chase, at the end of last season, and a lot of people wanted changes to the offensive staff. And my big thing is this is Josh Heupel's show. Josh Heupel's the offense coordinator here. He's the one running the offense. He and his staff just have to figure out adjustments and have to improve. And I think you saw an acknowledgement of that, which I don't think it's surprising that they knew that, but the acknowledgement I thought was interesting. So to your point about Halsley, that was one of the things that was said yesterday that I thought was pretty interesting.
And it's one of those things, he's not running from it, right? Where you just pointed out, he talked about how teams are now defending Tennessee, and that's been it's not the only reason the explosive plays have struggled through the air the last 2 years, but it is a part of it, right? Like there was 2 years of tape after the 2022 season of this is how Tennessee has been slicing and dicing teams through the air, and Tennessee had to adjust. And how they adjusted last year was 12 personnel with the 2 tight end sets a lot. But the other thing is just they've run through their tailbacks. Like the offensive identity has been their tailback, whether that was Jalen Wright in 2023 or it was Dylan Sampson in 2024. So they have pivoted. But what I gathered too, just listening to Halsley's answer, I just get the sense that there's a lot of pressure on that room. And when he's talking about, like, I understand we have to find answers and we've installed things to hope to counter what defenses are thinking. Because I think he even said, like, they can't control how we play on offense. And I think that's something that was refreshingly honest about what we've seen the last 2 years is like defenses have dictated how Tennessee's offense has played. And the first 2 years at Tennessee, Heupel and his staff, they dictated how defenses responded. They had defenses on their heels. It hasn't felt in 2 years that Tennessee's offense has had opposing defenses on their heels of like, oh, what is Tennessee going to do next?
For sure. It certainly hasn't. I think part of that last year especially was the inability to connect on the deep ball. I think that would have changed some things if you were able to be more explosive throwing the ball vertically down the football field. But I think the other part of it is just the tempo has largely been gone. They largely have not had it the last 2 years, and they've played in sort of a different style, leaning into the defense a little bit more in the run game. And I think that's part of it. I just think this year, how do you get that back without the tempo? I guess is what I'm getting at. Because to me, the tempo going back to what it was in 21 and 22 this season doesn't seem very realistic. You have a brand new quarterback, you have a brand new center, you have 4 new starters on the offensive line. All these areas that dictate being able to play fast or at hyper speed like they did. I don't, it doesn't seem likely that that's going to be the case, that they're going to be able to get back to that this season.
Yeah, I don't know, but do they get a pass? Does Halsley and company get a pass if they don't get back to that this season?
From who?
From Heupel. And if you're going to be the CEO coach, from the fan base, like, because that's something that you hear a lot this summer is because the Nico circumstances that a lot of people have said in the offseason, look, I understand this year the circumstances are not ideal. Let's just get to 9 wins. We'll be happy, and then get to 2026. And that's when things are back on track. And that's when our expectations rise again. That's just easy to say in the offseason. But if you have 3 straight years where even in the offseason and fall camp opens and you talk about these changes, is it the more pistol sets? Is it what are going to be those counters through the air that we have not seen the last 2 years that Halsley's kind of hinted at here yesterday? Like, if those don't actually produce different results after another full offseason of self-scouting and watching how opposing defenses have changed how they attack Tennessee's offense, then you just have over half of your tenure has been below average passing attack. And at a certain point, like, the rubber has to hit the rubber has to hit the road, meet the road. Yeah. So I don't see how you can avoid that, even with the circumstances involved with Nico in 2020-25, right?
Yes and no. I mean, I think I look at it in almost kind of a little bit different lens, where it's unrealistic to me to think the offense in the passing games, the personnel is not good. So why is the expectation for the passing game to be back to what it was or closer to what it was in 21-22? Would be my thing. The personnel is not good. I don't think they're great at quarterback. They're extremely young at receiver. We'll see how good they are there. I think you want to see more signs of life. And when it comes to getting a pass, I think that at the end of the day, that'll come down to a lot more of how many games the team wins. They win 9 games, yeah, I think most people will give them a pass. It'll remain a question. I don't think people will feel like they have fixed it, but I don't know. Like, I don't look at what they have on offense and think they are overly equipped to overcome some of the issues they've had the last few years.
I mean, you talk about, like, I think they have talent. They're just young. I mean, this is the youngest team Heupel's had in his 4 years at Tennessee. I mean, almost half of this roster is freshman and redshirt freshmen, according to Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel's numbers, right? And I mean, if that's the case, I mean, we talked about early on this week, and one of the things I've really thought about with where Tennessee's headed, like where they're at in the blue chip ratio is right around where Michigan and Clemson were when they won their respective national titles. They all had 5-star quarterbacks when they won the national titles. And you've been on this, where if you're going to be around where Tennessee is at recruiting, you're just going to have a 5-star quarterback break out to ultimately win the gauntlet, win 4 CFP games, and win a national title, which is still possible. You have a borderline one in George McIntyre right now, and then you have Faison Brandon coming in 26. That being said, true freshman quarterback, probably not winning a national title. I feel pretty comfortable saying that in 2026.
Yeah.
But 2027, depending on if Faison wins that battle, like there's still so many different things that have to happen before we get to that point. But it does feel like Tennessee is building towards 26 and 27. Where 27, I know fans don't necessarily want to hear that, but it does feel like with retention, where certain guys will be at, like David Sanders will be in year 3. You look through who's going to be starters and who's going to have been in the program for a little while. You're like 26 and 27, especially 27, feels like the year where Tennessee could be a preseason top 5 national title favorite. And this year, you just got to keep rowing the boat in the right direction. A lot more young guys to continue to grow and develop and get the passing game back on track, which is easier said than done. But there is absolutely a scenario where 26 and 27 specifically for me, that I'm pretty bullish on what Tennessee is building down the stretch here. I mean, that might be year 2 of Tristan Keys. It might be Darius Gray year 2. There might be, like, when you start really looking at who's going to be in the fold here for Tennessee potentially, like Gabriel Osenda will be in year 2, and Big Squish, the 5-star tackle from Baylor. You start looking around at a lot of guys and where they'll be with the program. I just think 26 and 27, the ceiling's significantly higher, and that would have been the case with or without Nico.
I think it's just too hard to project. Like, I see the vision. I completely see what you're saying, but in the transfer portal era, I just think it's difficult to speak with that certainty about things multiple years down the road.
But doesn't it feel like that's what they're building with the retention and how they've operated with the portal? Is like they are making a conscious effort this year in particular. They are playing young guys. Like that is part of the deal. Well, but I'm saying they could have been more active in the portal.
Yeah.
I think that goes to show that they are looking at this year not as a development year, not as like we're just punting on this year, but I think their plan of retention and their plan to force young guys onto the field tells me they are building towards 26 and 27.
I just think that's like, I see what you're saying. It's hard for me to think that would have truly been their thought process when they thought Nico was going to be the quarterback.
I mean,
maybe they just didn't feel like Nico was good enough to lead them to a national championship, and they were going to go through it with one more year and try to get back to the playoff. But they didn't think he was a national championship type quarterback. That could have been the case. I would just say I would agree a lot more of what you were saying if we knew from the jump that Nico wasn't back. Because I think you would have said, go back to 2023, you would have said 2025 is the year you're building to. Nico's second year as a starter. Mike Matthews' second year, yada, yada, yada. All these types of things. That's why I think it's just hard to project down the road. So I wouldn't be shocked if what you're saying is the case. I think it's just hard for me to say that with certainty because of the Nico element of it.
When we come back, we'll talk about the latest on Jermod McCoy, the All-American cornerback for Tennessee and projected first-round pick. What might be the return date for McCoy and Colton Hood buzz? Colton Hood, could he be CB1 here this year across from Ricky Gibson sooner rather than later? We'll talk about that as we continue on a big Tennessee football day right here on The Chase on a Wednesday. Stick with us. It's The Chase with Ryan Chempert of Rocky Top Insider in studio. 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app.
For the fans, by the fans. This is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Listen up. This is Thomas Miles, nephew Tommy. Okay, now, fellas, let's be adults for a minute. Let me ask you something. When the lights go down in the bedroom, are you still clocking in, or is the equipment on strike? Look, erectile dysfunction is real. It can mess with your mood, your confidence, and don't even talk about the side-eye you get from your lady. But there's good news. Men's Pro Knoxville has licensed medical providers who specialize in turning oh no into let's go. And forget those same old pills, they don't work for everybody. These folks have options most men don't even know exist. Your consultation, just $99. Blood work, consult, and maybe even a test dose if the doc says so. They got an in-house lab, so you'll know where you stand in minutes, not days. So stop stressing. Call 865-544-8220 or hit menspronknoxville.com. Men's Pro Knoxville, making it happen.
Yeehaw! I've been hooting and hollering ever since I started betting with the VIP Play app. VIP Play has more than 200 leagues, every bet type you can imagine, live betting and live hosts, all with 24/7 support from real live people when you need them. Start betting better with the VIP Play app today.
Don't be a better, be a better with VIP Play today.
Download VIP Play today or head to VIPPlayApp.com. Make sure you use the promo code FANRUN to take advantage of their welcome bonus and so they know that we sent you. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-8899-789. Must be 21 or older and located in Tennessee to bet.
Airlines have just reduced their prices even more. Book 30 days in advance and save big.
Want the absolute lowest prices on your airline tickets? Then call the Low Cost Airlines Travel Hotline right now. For prices so low, we can't publish them anywhere. The only way to access our low rates and save up to 70% is to call. Save hundreds on your vacation tickets by calling right now. You can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-631-1754. 800-631-1754. 800-631-1754. That's 800-631-1754.
Are you looking for a treat that will knock it out of the park at the next watch party? Just like your favorite baseball team, Crumble brings the best lineup week to week with an expanded roster that includes key lime pie, strawberry cake, or my personal favorite, Monster featuring M&M candies. Let Crumble treat you to the best cookies in the game. Download the Crumble app and start earning rewards. You can even vote monthly on what flavors you would like to see at any store of your choice. Warmer weather is here, so get to the ballpark, but don't miss the cookies.
It's a Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app. You can join the conversation today at 865-966-3435. As always, Ryan Shumpert of Rocky Top Insider in studio on a Wednesday. A little bit of a switch up this week, but Ryan, as we continue on here, who popped for you when you were watching what you were able to watch? It's not like you were able to be there for all of practice, but who stood out to you? Maybe just like frame, good offseason, maybe new freshman where you're like, oh, he does not look like a true freshman. Where do you go there?
Yeah, I think there's a number of different guys. I think Deshaun Bishop's one that looks really good, and some of that was talking to him yesterday. But then seeing it on the practice field today, I thought it matched up on another guy that's back and kind of a year younger, I guess. I think he's a year younger, Caleb Beasley. He looks much more to have the frame of a guy that could play safety, and he did some work today with Star too, which continues to be, I guess the question isn't as big as it might have been if the Boo Carter news was different on Tuesday, but I think still matters, as right now it's kind of uncertain when Boo's going to be completely back in the fold. So those are two returning guys. David Hobbs, continues to kind of look like $1 million. I feel like that's usually the case for him. And then on a couple of the freshman front, it's a lot of the big name guys. I mean, I think Travis Smith looks really, really good. And obviously there's plenty of opportunity there. And especially opportunity here early. There's Chris Brazel is sidelined here at the start of fall practice. So he's one guy. Jaden Perlotti looked good, another freshman linebacker. And then Marion Dye, who, you know, this is probably some of it between basketball and baseball. I don't get over there to as much spring practice. And he just looked significantly bigger than I expected him to be. Definitely more of a strong side defensive end build as opposed to a Leo.
Yeah, I mean, he came in huge. I think he was like 260 was his build weight coming out of the high school rank. So, yeah, I don't see him as a Leo, but Christian Gass is no-go, right? And he's the Leo 4-star from Covington, Georgia. I don't think he was one of the few because there weren't many. It was like Cole Harrison, Marion Dye. You mentioned Chris Brazel. Is there anybody else that stood out who was not available? I mean, obviously, Boo Carter.
Yeah.
I don't know of anyone else that jumps in.
And then not that this was a huge surprise, you know, it seemed like things were trending in this direction, but Jordan Thomas not only not out there, Ty Redmond wearing number 4. And Jordan Thomas is listed on the roster as number 4. I think that combination tells you Jordan Thomas isn't going to have a big role in his football team this fall as he still works back from the torn ACL that he suffered last fall camp.
It's sad, man. I mean, it's wild how much things changed because Jordan was, I mean, he was penciled in as your starter last year. And if he doesn't get hurt, does Boo see the field really? Because you had Christian Harrison behind him and they love to play.
I think Boo probably would have pushed Christian Harrison out of a lot of those minutes or those snaps, if I had to guess.
Yeah, but we'll never know because, like, I mean, they like vets, and
it's a different role for sure.
And Jordan Thomas would help you with your depth this year. And yeah, that one stinks. And I hope he can get back sooner rather than later. But you also look, the one that I liked when just reading all the different pieces from you, from the Go Ball Super 7 guys, the VolQuest guys, is Tyree West looking good, which is huge. Tyree West, I think, really, really needs to surpass Dominic Bailey in snaps as strong side defensive end this year. And I think as a 4-star, 4th-year senior, like Joshua Joseph on the other side, they need Tyree West to break out. I think they really need him to be excellent in pass rush situations. I think they need him to take one final leap here at Tennessee, and I hope that's the case for him because I think they're kind of sneaky still thin as strong side defensive end just because it's a lot of young guys that we like, but I don't want to put them on. I don't want to put them in that position where I'm expecting them to play significant snaps as strong side defensive end. Like Marion Dye, like you said, I think he's going to be an absolute dude. Number 1 player in the state of Indiana. That was a big pull for Tennessee this past cycle. So I'm very excited about him. Isaiah Campbell, I watched his interview. He's like one of the most likable dudes. You can tell he is going to be, in a couple of years, maybe even next year, is going to be one of the 3 that Heupel takes to SEC Media Days. I think he's an early favorite in the clubhouse there to me. And then Edwin Spillman, I just think it's sooner rather than later that he surpasses T-Lander as this co-starter with Arion Carter. Maybe it doesn't matter in terms of just who gets the most snaps at the end of the day, kind of like in basketball. It doesn't really matter if you start, it matters who finishes. I just think Edwin Spillman at full health, and you see him on the field today, and T-Lander is great in the box and everything else, but it just feels like Edwin Spillman has such a high ceiling, and him and Arion Carter, you can see that is just a really fun group dynamic. And if Burns and T-Lander are the other 2 in the 2 deep, Tennessee's linebackers, if they can stay healthy, are going to be really good. And I mean, they're just deep in a lot of areas. The only areas that I was looking at and thinking about is just the secondary, even with Booback, is still super young and super thin. You look at just the projected depth chart and like Caleb Beasley working at safety. They had Jalen McMurray working at star. Colton Hood is a spring enrollee. They can be excited about him, but he's still a spring enrollee from Colorado working at corner. But you look at it, like half of that group is true freshmen. You look at Trey Poteet. You talked about Tyler Redmond. You talk about Dylan Lewis. You talk about Timothy Merritt, Sidney Walton. Like these are talented dudes, but they're all true freshmen. So Tennessee has, it's very interesting, their dichotomy in the secondary, which right now is simply established veterans like Jervod McCoy, like Ricky Gibson, like Jalen McMurray, and then Andre Turrentine as well. And then you have all these freshmen that are kind of mixed in there. They don't really have the middle class.
They don't have what they don't have is what they had for the first 2 years was just a bunch of veteran guys that had played some that weren't that good.
Yeah.
Or, they were fine players.
They're okay.
It's a lot of guys now, like, Jalen McMurray is a perfect example. Jalen McMurray in 22 would have been their second best corner, like by far.
Mm.
And he's kind of the guy that you would say is that, I mean, he's older, but he's kind of that next group, the guy that's played some, but isn't a starter. Gibson, McCoy, Carter, super highly talented guys. Turrentine kind of matches that mold that they've had with a lot of safeties. So, yeah, you're right. It feels like a big drop off, and we'll see obviously in time what those freshmen are, but it's not like they were a bunch of top 100 5-star recruits either. So it's not guys that I don't think anybody, when they were blueprinting what Tennessee's rotations look like in the defensive backfield this season, I don't think anybody was penciling those guys in to have a big role as true freshmen.
Well, speaking of the secondary here, so Ryan Callahan, friend of the program of GoVols 247, on their forum, I was checking out this morning. He said, because people were asking him, like, what did you actually say in your radio hit this week in regards to Jermod? He said, quote, I didn't say it was definitely going to be mid-October. I said, now that we are closer to camp, I think a more realistic goal might be early to October to mid-October. I think a lot of fans have just penciled in Jermod ready for Georgia, right? Like, they won't see him for the first couple of games. They're just being overly cautious. I am now, this kind of goes to our poll predictions, because Jermod has really nothing to prove anymore. Evaluators, I guess they kind of want to see what he looks like post ACL tear. I mean, that would probably still benefit him to get on the field at some point this year and show that he's still that guy. But I mean, before the season got started, before the injury and everything else, he's getting mocked in the first round of the 2026 NFL draft. It's a weird balance in today's day and age. Tennessee, I guess it will partly depend on what kind of season they're having. It'll also depend on what you're getting from Colton Hood potentially at that corner spot. But I don't think a lot of fans anticipated when he went down in January that Jermod McCoy might not be available until the Alabama game. Now, Ryan Callahan, that's what I saw Brent Hubbs talk about that too. And I think in the VolQuest message board, he talked about, like, if it gets to mid-October, do we see Jermod McCoy? Does it make sense to have him back at all, in the second half of the season? So I don't really know what to make of that. It seems like we still have a whole lot we don't know on the Jermod front. And they're going to be extremely cautious with him, as they should. But that is one to keep an eye on. Boo's gotten all the headlines right now, but Jermod is actually coming back from an injury. Boo just needed to be present, and Boo is present now, and that's a huge win for Tennessee. And we'll see how that continues to develop over the next couple of days. But what does that mean to you if Jermod is not available till mid-October? Does that change your forecast for Tennessee at all?
I think it does. It's not something that you didn't have in the back of your mind that was possible. I mean, look, he had the torn ACL in January, and the company line was they think he'll be back for the start of the season. But I mean, that's just a guess. That's just at that point a complete guess. So I think it was always possible that it was not that. I would agree. I mean, Josh Heupel's update yesterday I thought was very negative in terms of Josh Heupel updates. He still didn't say much. Usually this is the same guy that, Cedric Tillman had surgery on his ankle, and he said, he might play this week for 4 straight weeks when he clearly wasn't going to play. So for him to be, again, he didn't say bluntly Jermod was not going to play to start the season, but it very much did not sound like he was talking about someone that was nearing a return to the football field, even in practice. And then obviously there's more and more steps you got to check. So just as a whole, how could it not change your outlook? This is by far the best player, by far the most proven player on Tennessee's roster. Definitely the best player on Tennessee's roster. A guy that changed Tennessee's defense last year. I mean, Tennessee's defense got them to the college football playoff, and I would argue that Jermod McCoy had a more impact on that than anybody else. So, yes, I think it definitely changes the outlook, but at the same time, this is corner of a room. We already felt pretty good about where Tennessee was at. They went and got Colton Hood in the portal, which I thought was a really proactive and good get for them out of spring. So it's not like they just don't have options, and I think they're going to be terrible. It's more that Jermod McCoy is the first-team All-SEC, potential first-team All-American player, and you lose those guys, yeah, of course it makes a big difference.
Yeah, when I think about this, I still think Boo would have been a more significant loss than if you don't have Jermod for the year, and that's no slight at Jermod.
Well, let me hone in on the question. Is this Jermod coming off injury, or Jermod never tore his ACL?
The latter.
Oh, I think that's a horrible take.
I think they are deeper at corner, where I think they would be more. I mean, Ricky Gibson in year 3. I mean, Jalen McMurray was a top 100 corner last year, and Colton Hood has, by all accounts, turned heads this spring and summer. To me, I think I could see a path where Tennessee's okay at corner without Jermod. Without Boo and not getting anything in return, I think at star they would be potentially kind of screwed there because there's just no depth behind Boo.
I just think your favorite word of cross training, like they've always been fine at star. There has not been a year where they have been bad at star.
I don't think they were good in 21 at Star.
Oh, I think they definitely were. Theo Jackson.
Or 22, excuse me. I don't think Tamarion was great.
No, he wasn't, but they were fine.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think to your point, like I think they would have been fine. They would be fine if Trevon McCoy doesn't play this year. But Boo Carter hasn't proven anything. Boo Carter has not proven that he's the first team All SEC guy, and you're just assuming a dude who no-showed the month of late July on this team is going to make these massive steps forward when Trevon McCoy is a proven star.
I think it's more of how many fingerprints Boo has over this whole team as a whole. Like he could have his fingerprints on defense, on special teams, and on offense. Like it's still at the end of the day.
Go and punt on the offense fingerprints.
Not if the offense is struggling. Like that should not be the case. If Boo is here and Boo is playing and Boo is a part of this team and the slot position is not producing the way it should, or Tennessee has the same red zone woes scoring touchdowns in the red zone as they have the last couple of years, and they're not utilizing or trying Boo in those spots, then I think that's a mistake. You at least have to try. And on punt returns, I think there's no question. Boo doesn't have anything to prove there. Boo is an absolutely...
He can catch the ball.
Okay, that's fine. Boo on special teams is my least concern. Boo on punt returns is a lock to be special. We saw it last year. Tennessee was almost up 14-0 on the road in Athens if Jalen McMurray makes that block on Brett Thorson.
Or if Boo Carter can beat a punter.
Okay, Boo Carter is...
I mean, that's a spot in the line. If he can beat a punter, they're up 14-0.
He was a true freshman. And you saw what Dramad was doing back there, and that was special teams malfeasance that we were trotting out. Dramad and
Squirrel was much worse than Dramad was at it.
Because Squirrel has no twitch. Like Squirrel is just like going down. It was just one of those. He was a fair catch guy, and
yeah, he was.
It was.
Dramad had the same problem about catching the ball, not letting it running up and getting under it.
I mean, the whole thing is like to be a great punt returner, you have to have twitch. Like you have to be able to make the first guy miss. You have to have that natural ability, and most guys don't have that. If Boo wasn't on the team, I guess the only other guy you could really throw back there who would be able to do it is probably Mike. I think it's Mike Matthews. It's probably it. You don't have a lot of those dudes on this roster.
I think it would be somebody who's out there fair catching for the most part.
And that could be a huge problem because you saw in 23, D. Williams saved Tennessee at times with his ability on punt returns.
Yeah, I think less of a problem. It's more a luxury, to your point, to have a guy like Boo or D. Williams. But and look, I'd say some of that stuff tongue in cheek. I actually do think he needs to do a much better job of catching the football on punts. He cost Tennessee and cost himself chances of making plays a lot last year because he would let punts bounce. The Georgia thing, I just say tongue in cheek. We've joked about that. The offense, look, it could happen. You're right. If things go poorly, he could play on offense. It's just like if I'm going to buy into him being a offense changing player, he needs to. I wouldn't have needed to see him be much more committed and being fully bought into doing that himself. I don't think he just has, as far as talented as a player as he is, I don't think he just has such overwhelming talent that he can just roll out there and be the answer to a lot of Tennessee's offensive woes.
Couldn't hurt. You know where I stand on the Boo Carter experience still. Boo Carter, the player, still very much excited. If he can get back on track and do what he needs to do to get back in the field, I think he is just there aren't many guys that I can forecast like potential All-American right now on this Tennessee roster. He's one of them. Dramad is obviously in there. I would say David Sanders is in that category.
In this year?
Next year.
Okay, just in their career.
Yeah, in their career, they've shown enough where I could see it. And then I might throw in Edwin Spillman potentially, having that kind of upside. So yeah, there aren't many of those guys, and most teams don't have many of those guys. And that's to put a bow on it. When I was thinking about this too, of like in terms of who is more valuable to Tennessee in 2025, like who could they afford to lose less than Dramad? I think Lance Hurd was the first person I thought. I mean, you saw this week, Jesse Perry, I think, was working at guard today. So if he's at guard and you're going Bennett Warren and Brian Grant at backup tackle spots because Larry Johnson's out the door, like Gage Ginther is working at guard, Shane Murad working at guard. It's kind of quietly thin back there, and Lance Hurd just looks great and seems like he's in a great spot.
I am starting to buy into your Lance Hurd.
First round pick, Lance Hurd. I've been preaching this all offseason. So I like that. I think they could not afford to lose him. I would probably say, part of me says Braylon Staley. It would be a bigger loss because they really have no answers behind him at slot. Like they can piece together on the outside with Smith and Rodarius and stuff. It still would not be as elusive, and you want Mike and Brazel there. But slot, they are thin. Amari Jefferson, who didn't go through spring, didn't play last year at Alabama. We have no idea what he got there. And Joakim Dotson was a summer enrollee and one of the two guys. So I don't think you are in a position where Braylon Sealy needs to be in bubble wrap over the next month because they really, really are thin there.
Get you those boost snaps.
Hey,
to your point, they would kind of be forced to it to a degree.
And the final one I'd probably say is Arian Carter. Like, Arian has to be healthy all year because they are – I
would disagree with that.
They are so young behind Arian. And next year, I think they'll be fine. This year, they need Arian to be healthy for the majority, if not all season.
Yeah,
especially early on.
I just think I don't know. I think they get by without him. I think the difference between him and what's behind him, as long as T. Lander's healthy, is not not nearly the gap that Tremont to everybody else's.
I mean, part of the reason they lost Arkansas was linebacker play. Like, they were not able to. I mean, linebacker play. You saw the difference with Keenan Pili and without Keenan Pili at Tennessee the last 2 years, and I just think that's one when the mobile quarterbacks are able to scramble on 3rd and 8 and get home and get first down to keep drives alive. That's because of where they were at linebacker with injuries and stuff. Like, you saw the difference with Jeremy Banks in the South Carolina game with and without. Also, I went back and watched Alabama, Tennessee for the majority of it yesterday. Jeremy Banks had a great game against Alabama. Kind of forgotten. But anyway, I think there's a lot. So I'm not panicking about Jermon McCoy is ultimately the conversation here. Are you panicking about Jermon McCoy's availability? You can call us at 865-966-3435 to join the conversation today. Ryan Shumpert, a Rocky Top insider in studio right here on a Wednesday. We'll continue the conversation on our boldest Tennessee football takes for this season, a round-robin discussion with Matt and Jay in here, along with Ryan. Stick with us. It's The Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app.
Check out our new and improved website at fanrunradio.com.
Only 3 homestands remaining to see your Knoxville Smokies play this season. And next week is full of celebrations, starting with free hot dog night on Tuesday. All the hot dogs you can eat all night long. And if you're still hungry, we've got all you can eat Wednesday, Thirsty Thursday with half-off draft beers. Then on Friday, we honor one of the founding members of the Negro Southern League, the Knoxville Giants. On Saturday, we're continuing the fight against breast cancer by painting the park pink. And on Sunday is Cocoa Melon Day. Grab your tickets now at smokiesbaseball.com.
Hey Knoxville, Surfside iced tea and vodka made with real brewed tea is only 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar with no bubbles and no troubles. That's right, 0 carbonation, so it's easy to sip and enjoy. Headed to a game day or party at a friend's house? Bring an iced tea or lemonade variety pack from Surfside or try their green tea and new raspberry tea vodka. Find the can with the sunset stripes this season. Surfside iced tea and vodka, sold at bars, restaurants, and stores near you. Surfside iced tea and vodka, sunshine in a can. Must be 21 or older. Enjoy responsibly.
Rickard Ridge Barbecue, located in beautiful Cove Lake State Park. Rickard Ridge is home of the best ribs in the Volunteer State. Smoked daily by pitmaster Mark Rickard. The barbecue at Rickard Ridge is mouth-watering, fall-off-the-bone delicious. Take the scenic drive up I-75 to exit 134. For directions and to look at the rest of the menu, visit Rickard Ridge online at rickardridgebbq.com.
A brand built in Tennessee and born from the love of the game. Inward Half revolutionizes golfing comfort. Crafted by a former pro and dedicated enthusiast just like you, our luxury performance wear guarantees you stay cool and comfortable through every swing and every day. We're not just a brand. We've set out to create a lifestyle for those who understand that impeccable style and premium performance are a hole-in-one. Enjoy the walk-in with Inward Half.
Located in Knoxville's historic Old City, Barley's offers great food, live music, the best draft beer selection in town, and now your new favorite place to watch sports. Their indoor projector is perfect for any weather, and they've revamped their upstairs area with more TVs to take in all of the action. Their menu features hand-battered chicken tenders, juicy burgers, fresh salads, and the tastiest pizza in Knoxville. You can enjoy their happy hour drink specials daily from open until 6 p.m. Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria.
Is your smile ready for the spotlight? Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Wilco, and at Knoxville Smiles, we make every visit a reason to smile. From routine cleanings to dazzling cosmetic treatments, our experienced team uses the latest technology to keep your teeth healthy and your smile bright. With a warm, welcoming atmosphere and personalized care, we're here to make sure you leave feeling your best. Don't wait. Your perfect smile is just a call away. Book your appointment today at 865-539-1776 or online at knoxvillesmiles.com. Smile brighter with Knoxville Smiles.
It's the Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app. Ryan Shumpert in studio with us here from RockyTopInsider.com on a Wednesday. Ryan, as we do our round robin here and get Jay and Matt in the Tennessee boldest football season take. Now that fall camp is here, it's time to go on record with our boldest. It could be a win prediction. It could be like just the overall record. It could be the biggest upset for Tennessee this season. Where are you going in your boldest Tennessee football take that you are most passionate about or a biggest believer in?
I just don't really have anything that bold. It's bad radio. You know, I've thought about it. I didn't come unprepared because you sent it to me earlier today, and I saw it immediately waiting for Josh Heupel to get to the podium. You know, I think if I had to go with one, I don't know how bold. I do think Deshaun Bishop will prove to be the best running back on this team by a decent bit. Maybe not to the split that Dylan Sampson had last year, but maybe a little bit larger split than I expected. And then, yeah, I just think defensive line would be the one that I am a little concerned about some things, but at the same time, I just trust Ronnie Garner and Coach Chop. So like that's the area of outside of the stuff that we all know. I mean, we all know I'm kind of a hater of what they have at quarterback and receiver. Defensive line is the one where I don't necessarily just love the roster, but those two guys and the fact that they've consistently had people step up year over year to be able to help them, it's just hard for me to really go with some hot take that I think the defense line is going to be way worse than expected just because I trust those coaches, and there are certainly capable bodies in that room.
Okay. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, I think I might need a Fell For It Again award after this take, but I think Tennessee will drain the swamp for the first time since I was an infant.
Ooh. Okay.
Mine's going to be kind of related to that, but I think that Tennessee, Florida in November is going to be a playoff get-in game. If we win that game, that probably propels us into the playoff conversation and probably gets us in.
I like that. I've said something similar this offseason in terms of like where that game now falls in the calendar. I mean, that's kind of what Georgia was, playing game for Tennessee, playing that game late. If things continue to develop the way it has for Josh Heupel and his program, that game, if that had stayed in November, especially this year, that might have been a CFP playing game again. The thing I worry about now at Florida is DJ Lagway like being seen in a walking boot at the start of this week, where if he can't stay healthy, that's not going to be a playing game because Florida, Harrison Bailey is QB2 there. Now, if they had Deshaun Pardee, who ended up transferring in the spring, who came in from Charlotte, who Georgia really wanted, and he goes to Florida, anytime you have a quarterback from a G5 that Georgia and Florida want, he's probably shown some stuff on tape that he could be a pretty good player. And he ends up at Wake Forest now. So we'll see him this offseason for Jake Dickert in his first year over there in Winston-Salem. But for me, I'm more dubious on that being a play-in game just because I think DJ Lagway, we're now at a point where I think it's fair to be like, are we sure this guy's ever going to be able to stay healthy? Like some guys are just made of glass. Some guys are just not able to stay healthy and withstand the pound. Like it's just how it is. Like it's not fair, but some guys are just more injury prone than others. And DJ might be inching closer and closer to that just being his lot. But yeah, the Florida part, it's interesting because I think a lot of people, to your point, Jay, they look at Alabama on the road because Tennessee has played in Tuscaloosa extremely well, both of their games. I think Tennessee honestly should have won in 2023 in Tuscaloosa.
For sure.
If they had converted one more of those red zone trips with a touchdown, they're up 3 scores going into the half. And I think Alabama does not feel like they can get back into it. But because Alabama was a 2-score game, they're like 1 play and we're right back in this thing. And then of course 2 plays out of the second half and they score a touchdown, 2 big, what was it? A big 50-yard bomb. And they score on the next
One of them
play.
was a strip sack.
Yeah. And it unraveled in a hurry for Tennessee. But they were in that game at the beginning of the fourth quarter in 2021 too. Tennessee's offense was not phased. And I'm definitely one of those people who thinks Alabama's home venue is definitely the most overrated in the SEC. There's nothing really intimidating about it. It's kind of a country club affair. It's not super loud. It's not one of those places that players are like, oh, I was in Bryant-Denny and I was nervous. There was a lot of nerve-wracking stuff. The Swamp's a different animal. In Tennessee, we have just seen so many different ways that Tennessee has gone down there where it's just been a house of horrors. It also might be Harrison Bailey as QB1, which would be the most Tennessee thing ever to lose to Harrison Bailey in 2025 in the Swamp to miss the College Football Playoff. I'm not putting that in the atmosphere. It's all good vibes here on July 30th, but that would be the most Tennessee football thing ever is Harrison Bailey to keep Tennessee out of the playoff. All that being said, Alabama's the one with the highest line. It's the one that I think is least likely a W for Tennessee this year. I think Alabama's winning the SEC, so it kind of goes hand in hand there. But I do think it's a good call. I think in Gainesville, it's more feasible to me than Alabama. I feel like you don't agree with this, though, Sean.
No, I definitely agree with it.
Okay.
I just think the Florida game has become the one that's just so hard to project right now because of how late it is in the season. And there's so much, as it feels like there usually is with Florida, but especially with the DJ Lagway situation and just Billy Napier as a whole, there just feels like there's so much variance in what Florida could be. Like Florida could be a dumpster fire by November, and that'd be a game Tennessee should really win, or they could exceed or live up to the people who have really high expectations for them, and Lagway play like one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and then be a legit playoff team. And in that case, that would be a very, very difficult game. So it's just I think the unknown of Florida is a lot more than certainly the unknown of Georgia, and to me the unknown of Alabama. And because of that, Tennessee with a ceiling that I'm not bullish on, but a floor I do like. I think that game is the one of those three to me that becomes a lot more winnable.
I think my boldest would probably surprise some people in terms of just like, I do think Tennessee national and SEC pundits will say by the midpoint of this year, like, oh, Tennessee's got one of the best offensive lines in the SEC and in college football. I think that is something I feel pretty bullish on, especially if Pendleton's healthy. If Pendleton wins right guard and Satterwhite wins center, I think Tennessee is in a really good spot this year and going forward. And I think with Hurd and where he's at left tackle and where David Sanders looks like, I mean, he looks like $1 million this week. Like David Sanders
looks slim to me. Too slim.
He's put on a lot of weight though. I mean, he just looks like you know who's actually huge too and looks just like he's not in year 2 of the program. It's Jesse Perry. Yeah. Jesse Perry's huge. Jesse Perry, and I was surprised to see him start at guard. I mean, he seems like the next version of Dane Davis for Tennessee, where you can just play him in a lot of different spots. But man, I just think this offensive line, it would not surprise me at all. Because Glenn Ellerbe, the issue with Glenn has not been what we've actually seen on the field. Like the issue with fans has been for 4 years that he hasn't developed one of his own guys, right? Like Glenn Ellerbe made it work with Gerald Mincey and J.J. Crawford for an entire season where they were the number 1 team in the country, where they had a JUCO kid and a transfer from Florida and Gerald Mincey defending against Dallas Turner and Will Anderson and company. He was able to get the most out of Darnell Wright to turn him into a top 10 pick. He was able to develop Cooper Mays into a guy who was reliable 4-year starter. He made it work with Ollie Lane at left guard, who was solid for Tennessee in 23. He made it work with Javonte Spraggins. He made it work. Like there are so many success stories with Glenn Ellerbe once the guys get on the field. I can understand with the high school evals and stuff like that, but it is still a developmental position, and this year's a big one. Like he kind of needs Satterwhite to really blossom, or Sham Umarov at right guard, because if it seems like if Pendleton is your starting center, then it's probably going to be Sham Umarov at right guard and Wendell Moy at left guard. It seems like that's reading through the tea leaves and how these things are constructed. Maybe Jesse Perry surprises at that point, but I think you'd still rather have Jesse as like a swing guy, depending on where injuries go, especially his second year in the program, and Sham Umarov going into year 4. To me, I just think this offensive line is so deep and so strong and has the look of an SEC elite offensive line. And I just think I'm pretty bullish that this is going to be one of the best offensive lines in the conference and in the country by the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't see that type of ceiling. Or at least I wouldn't predict it, I guess. I
mean, look at the left side. Wendell Moy's given up 1 sack his entire career. Lance Hurd is in great shape, former 5-star guy. He has a lot to prove this year. I mean, the left side of the offensive line is going to absolutely be one of the best in the country.
If Lance Hurd takes a major step forward, for sure. And look, I am high on Lance Hurd. I think he's going to be a lot better than he was last year. I just don't see that as a given, and I think there are a whole lot of questions from center to right tackle. What David Sanders looks like as a true freshman, like it's not easy. It's not easy playing offensive tackle as a true freshman in the SEC. So what I will give them a lot of credit as a whole, and why I would say I'm high long term there, I see the vision. You know, it goes back to last week when Kirk Herbstreit had the thing, I think it was last week, about how Nico's dad came to Heupel and said, we need to do this, we need to do that to get more talent. And, you know, my first thought was like, he's kind of right. Not his place to say, but he's kind of right. I see the vision at offensive line. I don't know what else they would have wanted Tennessee to do. Like, I completely see the vision of what Tennessee was trying to do. Like, realistically, I think they did all they could do. Receiver, I don't think so. But to that point, like, offensive line, I see the vision. I think they should be solid, could be good, and long term should be in a really good spot. I don't know. Too many unknowns for me to feel comfortable throwing around them being one of the best in the SEC.
I guess the other one too, a lot of folks I think are penciling in Darrell Sims going back to the rotation that we last saw with Jerry Mack in 2023 with Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, and company. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be true. I mean, it was a bell cow situation with Dylan Sampson last year. It might be Deshaun Bishop here in year 3. It might be Peyton Lewis in year 2. Might be Star Thomas. Who knows? My gut is I don't think Darrell is going to rotate like Jerry Mack did. The fact that Tennessee is all in on Savion Hyder this cycle, and we'll see here in August, it looks like, where the 5-star number 1 running back in the nation ends up. But the fact that Tennessee is all in there, it just raises an eyebrow to me in terms of how they want to, what kind of offensive identity they want to be. And I mean, they have been a run first team. Joey Halsley talked about it this week, is like, that's something they have made a point, you know, is like, we're going to run the football well here. I think a lot of folks just assume we're going back to a 3-man rotation. If Deshaun Bishop is healthy, he seems like leader in the clubhouse to be the main lead tailback this year. My bold prediction here is I don't think there's going to be a close carry count with these 3 backs. I think one of these guys is going to separate, whether by an injury or just what they actually produce on the field. But my gut is we get to the end of the year, and my bold prediction is that we talked all offseason about, oh, here comes the rotation again. I think one guy in particular is going to outnumber the other two guys in this competition and carries in a significant way where we're like, okay, this is part of the deal. I think the 3-man unit where we have a different running back on each drive, I don't know if Darrell is going to do that as much. It just doesn't make sense to go on for Savion Hyder. It doesn't make sense based on what we saw last year and where they're kind of at right now. I think Darrell is going to want more of a bell cow back.
Maybe so. I don't think the comparison to last year to where they are right now is accurate at all. I think Dylan Sampson was by far and away the best running back. I don't necessarily feel like they have that. But to your point, I don't think it'll be as close to 33, as people expect. I do think you're right there. And I don't even necessarily disagree. I would say I feel like 1 and 2 will be relatively close, and then there will be a decent gap to 3. That's what I'd say where I feel right now, but I don't hear your take and think, oh, there's no way that happens. That wouldn't shock me if that ended up being the case where Deshaun Bishop or Star Thomas ended up by far having the most carries, and maybe not quite a bell cow, but was the clear number 1.
75-25 is my prediction. I think that's what's
0 or less than 5 for the third guy.
Yes.
Yeah, I would be maybe not pretty surprised. I'd be surprised if it's that dramatic.
We'll see. I'm very curious because like there's no point in Darrell tipping his hand here and that sort of thing. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. But yeah, I don't know. There's
the aspect of staying healthy too.
It's true. But maybe part of it is like, what if the passing game struggles all over again? And they're just like, hey, we know Peyton Lewis or Deshaun Bishop can grind out these yards, and we trust him more than anybody on this offense that he's got to play, and we got to ride him in the second half. Like we did Dylan.
That's where I disagree with your take because you just discount Dylan Sampson a lot.
I don't discount Dylan Sampson.
You do. You discount Dylan. You're like, oh, they'll just find the one guy and go to him like they did Dylan Sampson. I think if that's the case, they're more likely to play multiple guys. Now, certain games, it might skew that way. But Dylan Sampson, to me, was just a different level back than what this team has right now.
I don't know. I would still say Jalen Wright was the best version of a Heupel scheme running back at Tennessee. I think Dylan Sampson was the most complete back, but I think Jalen Wright was the best fit for Heupel's scheme. Averaged over 7 yards per carry. That final Jalen Wright year, he put a pose. Like, what was Dylan Sampson's, big run last year? It was just, he was great in the second half. He was great after contact, but he didn't have that kind of burst and that kind of fear with light boxes that you're like, uh-oh, he can go for 70 and change the game that Jalen Wright did. Jalen Wright started as a track star and then put on weight and muscle and really developed Tennessee. But there's a reason the Miami Dolphins took Jalen Wright, a team who's so focused on speed with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle and company, and why they see him the way they do. Like, I think Jalen Wright in the speedy back is where you want to be on Tennessee. That's why Peyton Lewis is the guy. Is leader in the clubhouse for me. I would not be surprised.
Really?
Yeah, I
think he's my number 3.
I'm a Peyton Lewis believer. When we come back, we'll talk about Balls Hoops. New year, new role. We'll continue on this series here. JP Estrella going into year 3. What's he going to be? What should Rick Barnes expect of Estrella in that big man rotation here in 2025, 2026? And then a new video board at TBA. We'll talk about that as well right here on The Chase. It's Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app.
Follow us on Twitter or X or whatever the they're calling it these days at Fox Sports Knox, Fox Sports Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
Ready to launch your career? Axle Logistics is a leading third-party logistics company where excellence is an energy. With an award-winning culture, Axle proves that positive outcomes come from a positive environment and a work hard, play hard mentality. At Axle, the drive for success is infectious. And with an uncapped commission structure, hard work isn't just noticed, it's rewarded. For those with big goals and even bigger dreams, Axle Logistics is the place to start your career.
Sick of Googling the best bets for tonight and coming up short? Tap into the slate presented by VIP Play, East Tennessee's only on-air gambling show. I'm William Pattison, and every weekday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, I'm giving you sharp analysis, trends, and picks for college football, the NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. If it's on the books, we've got you covered. It's the slate presented by VIP Play, weekdays at 6 on Fan Run Radio.
Every 40 seconds, a child goes missing somewhere in the U.S. You can help in the effort to find missing kids simply by donating your car or boat to Find the Children, a nonprofit organization dedicated to returning missing children to their families. Find the Children works closely with national and community agencies and organizations and helps distribute flyers and posters that are directly responsible for recovering missing kids. Your car or boat donation helps protect and recover children in every state and community by sponsoring child safety and recovery programs. For fast, free pickup, call anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Running or not, your car, truck, van, RV, or boat will be towed away free of charge. Fast, free pickup, plus it's tax deductible. Everyone wins when you donate your car or boat to Find the Children.
Call right now. 800-466-8813. 800-466-8813. That's 800-466-8813.
If you're looking for a sports talk show that gets to the bottom of the biggest sports topics, then check out Under Review on Fan Run Radio. I'm Bob Baskerville, and every day, Sam Beard and I cover the latest news on the Vols. We also widen our view to cover what's hot in the SEC. From local and national media pros to the coaches and players we all root for, we have the best guests and experts anywhere. So tune in weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on AM 1340, FM 105.7, or stream live on our free app. It's Under Review on Fan Run Radio.
You're listening to FM 105.7 and AM 1340, WKGN Knoxville, and W289CU Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
A brand built in Tennessee and born from the love of the game, Inward Half revolutionizes golfing comfort. Crafted by a former pro and dedicated enthusiast just like you, our luxury performance wear guarantees you stay cool and comfortable through every swing and every day. We're not just a brand. We've set out to create a lifestyle for those who understand that impeccable style and premium performance are a hole-in-one. Enjoy the walk-in with Inward Half.
It's the Chase. It's the Chase. Live 1 to 3, Monday through Friday on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. Listen to Chase and his friends on WKG. It's the Chase. It's the Scruffy City. Listen to his friends, and his friends are on WKGN. I'm always taking your calls on the Tennessee Vols. It's the Chase. It's the Chase. It's the Chase.
It's the Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app. We're back in hour number 2 with Ryan Shempert of Rocky Top Insider in studio with us. As we continue on here, we're going to talk some Tennessee Vols hoops here at the top of hour number 2. We'll have Graham Coffey of Dawgs Central joining us here at 2:15 as well to get the inside scoop on Tennessee's Week 3 opponent, the Georgia Bulldogs, and where things stand with the Dogs going into fall camp this week as well. So look out for that. But before we get there, Vols hoop, new year, new role, J.P. Estrella, Ryan Shempert. What was he going to be last year before the injury? Where does he fit now on this year's team with a very different big rotation? And how will he need to evolve under Barnes to establish consistent playing time here in 2025, 2026?
I think it's an interesting what if, because I didn't think he was a very natural fit with what Tennessee's roster looked like last year. I think with Zakai Ziegler being such a good pick and roll ball handler, a guy, but it played so well with a guy like Felix Okpara who goes up and gets it. And, on a JP out there with Zakai, who is an average catch and shoot guy, Jemai, who was not a super reliable catch and shoot guy. He certainly would have helped the team offensively because he's just a talented player. I don't know that he was a perfect fit. So it's a little bit of a what if. And Tennessee's team was built more to play a little bit more small ball, or at least with the stretch 4. So it probably would have bumped Cade Phillips to more 4 minutes. And it would have given them a little bit more versatility in how they play. But I just think the front court was a very interesting mix last year with those 3 guys of JP, Cade, and Felix on top of Igor and D-Stone as guys at the 4 spot. This year, I just think it makes a lot more sense with the way the roster is positioned. This is going to be a roster that plays 2 bigs basically at all times. Just naturally because of that, they're going to throw the ball inside more to try to get more buckets in the interior, rely on their front court to score. That's what JP does so well. I think JP isn't a very skilled low post scorer, and if he's out there and healthy, I think he's going to be able to do that. You wonder about how quickly can he get out there and be comfortable in games with just 1, as little as he's really played in his career, and 2, missing the time with the injury last year. And then, I think shooting is a bit of a question mark on this team, but a lot of that's because of what you look like at the 4 spot. Jacoby Gillespie shoots it really well. Nate Mint shoots it well, maybe really well. We'll see there. And then Amari Abram, who I don't think is necessarily a great shooter. What he is a catch, spot up shooter, catch and shoot guy who's been good this summer doing that. And look, there's a lot of different 2 options, and some of those would fit that more. So I think JP fits this roster better to have a bigger role than he did last year.
I thought you were going to go the other way because they were just so thin in 2025, right? Or 2024 to 2025, because you didn't really know what you had in Felix at that point. I mean, at that time, he was a transfer from Ohio State, still pretty green in the system. You definitely didn't know what you had in Cade to that point. And Barnes didn't, the Darlinson Dubar part of it, up and down in terms of where he was in the rotation. And then Igor, kind of up and down throughout the year. I just felt like there was a lot more uncertainty in the big rotation at Tennessee last year, and that JP would have been able to, if he had been able to be healthy and been able to earn Barnes' trust, he could have really established himself as a bigger minute guy. This year, I think it's kind of crammed, and it doesn't help that Dwayne Brown is now in, and Dwayne Brown could be someone who pushes JP and someone who has more of those natural defensive chops that Barnes might trust more.
I think he's a little bit more like JP.
Interesting. But is that good for JP? Because now he has that kind of pressure behind him where you already are fighting to surpass Jalen Carey, surpass Cade and Felix and get some minutes there. But you also have to kind of look over your shoulder behind you at someone who is going to press you as a freshman who, look, man, we've talked about this on my podcast and you and I just in our group chat of like what this means with we're all expecting the 5-year rule to eventually come in and like the red shirt stuff to kind of go away. Like, I just think if Barnes thinks Troy Henderson or Dwayne Brown can help him, he's going to play them this year. Right. And that's just a lot of competition for JP to deal with. He's a super talented player and was a big kid at the time, but it's year 3 and it's kind of, it's where to use this expression again, where the rubber meets the road. I think JP has to find his footing if he's going to be a part of this team. Because I mean, Felix, it feels like this is it, right? You'd be surprised if Felix Akpara is back for one more year.
Not a 5th year gets passed, I wouldn't be surprised.
I guess it also just depends on what you have behind him, right? Like where Tennessee's at in that regard. But I guess JP has to show something.
For
right?
sure.
This is a big year for JP Estrella. He has to stay healthy, number 1. But number 2, I think he just has a lot more competition with Jalen Carey entering the fold and Cade being a whole lot more versatile than I think we thought he was going to be coming into Tennessee.
Everything you said is accurate. Where I would skew my perspectives different is they're just going to play the way they're going to play is going to be different. They're going to play 2 bigs. Whereas last year, a lot of time he had been out there, there's only 5. There's not other people to, he is in charge of defending the rim and that being the weakness of his game. Right now, if he's out there at the 5 and Cade Phillips is playing the 4, you have someone else that can help. You have another guy that can help on the glass, another area that I don't think is a huge strength. I'm not sure I'd go as far as calling it a weakness. I think you have other guys that can help fill some of those gaps to where Tennessee doesn't have to ask JP Estrella, to one big man on the court to do quite as much, and can let him be a little bit more himself. And I said it in my summer notebook piece earlier this week. Nate Ament's the one guy on this roster who can play stretch 4, and I don't think he's going to do that a whole lot. I think he's maybe more keen to play more minutes at the 2 than he is the 4. So just because of that, it's going to be a lot of 2 big lineups, and I think that's where again that's the discrepancy. Felix is so good at defending the rim, and I think is a better rebounder than JP. When you're only going to play 1 big, that's the stuff that has to take priority. When you play 2 bigs, not that stuff doesn't matter or that stuff might not take priority. You can get away with it a little bit more if you have another guy at the 4 who can do a little bit to defend the rim and is a good rebounder as well.
If you had to use your crystal ball here for this year, who does JP play with the most inside?
I think it's probably Cade. I mean, we've had these conversations where I think of the center options, I think JP has more offensive game than Felix. Of the power forward options, I think Carey has more offensive game than Cade. So I just think it makes sense to kind of mix and match that way. But again, they're going to tinker with a lot of that stuff. That's something they haven't gotten to do a ton this summer because guys have just been banged up. JP has been obviously continuing to get further and further healthy. Jalen Carey missed some time earlier in the summer, a couple weeks with some illness. Cade's been out with a shoulder injury as of late. So I think that's something that I think is going to be really curious what it looks like, and I don't think Tennessee's gotten any closer to figuring that out in the summer workouts.
Is this at all kind of like a Dramod thing, or is your expectation JP is going to be okay to start the year?
My expectation he's going to be fine. This was always the timeline for that injury he had.
I'm very, where I feel about it, just because he is someone when things get tight inside in the half court, when they're in close games, Tennessee did not have someone they could just throw the ball inside to last year and go to work. JP has that kind of upside. It's just, I don't know how rusty he's going to be, right? Like, I just don't know where JP's at after basically a year away from basketball and how long it's going to take for him to get acclimated, how much, like, it's also going to be, I think, a hard thing for Coach Barnes to balance here, right? Where I think he's going to have to give JP a little bit more opportunity to fail a little bit than some of the other guys. Like Felix, you kind of know what you have. Cade, you know what you have. I think with JP, with his confidence and where he's at and what you potentially might need from him inside come March, is just that, like, you have to find those right balances, like you said, where him at the 5 and Cade at the 4, where he can help shield from some of JP's weaknesses that are kind of natural. I don't think JP's ever going to be like an elite rim protector.
No.
Doesn't seem likely. But he is someone that when things get tight, if Nate Amen is in foul trouble or Jacoby Gillespie doesn't have it going, and they need someone when it's 57-56 against Alabama or whoever to go throw the ball inside, get fouled, go to work, he has a bag. Like, JP has the highest offensive ceiling of any of the bigs, I think, of this group.
Agree.
And it's just the defense part of it where Barnes has to remember I'm not comparing JP to Dalton, But there is something too. Hey, I wish I could count on him more defensively, but like you can't treat JP the same in terms of the defensive expectations. And I think that will help both sides a lot of like, let JP focus first on just being a great rebounder and a great guy inside who can score in the post and give some quality breathers to Felix Akpara. So if Felix Akpara is also in foul trouble a lot, like that's always been something that's kind of there. So JP has a great path to the court if he can stay healthy this year. But I do hope Barnes gives him a longer leash than some of the other guys on this team.
Yeah, I think, that's just like a pendulum, I guess, of how it can swing. Like, I mean, you saw that in the Dalton Connect year. Freddie DeLeon didn't play defense, wasn't good enough offensively to get those breaks and to get that leeway. Dalton was so good offensively that he got all those breaks. So, I think it almost goes with how good JP is that will dictate, how patient Rick is with him on some of the offense or the defense and rebounding stuff. But I do think he will be patient too of him getting into a rhythm. And that's, where the schedule could help too. I mean, they play 5 games before they play a real opponent essentially, and then they play all their hard opponents in a row, and then they got 2 easy ones before SEC play starts. So that ramp up could be good. And yeah, I mean, you said it. There's the rust factor, and then there's the factor that JP's played 15 games in college, and probably an average of 3.5 minutes in those games. So he's for being a junior and being a guy that everybody's familiar with, he's still pretty young in college basketball.
Yeah, and I'm very cautiously optimistic. I'm a JP Estrella believer. He's one of my dudes, and I just hope CRB. He hasn't consulted me yet, but that is something that I think Coach Barnes should really consider. Is just check-ins with me about where I see JP at the moment. Like I do think that is something that he should set aside of just like, hey, where's Chase at with JP right now? Because there might be a blind spot there on the staff, but for me, it's both objective and fair when it comes to analyzing what JP Estrella can be and how much playing time is right. So it's just one of those things, right? I do hope the line of communication is open on my end. I just hope that's the case on the other side, because I think the two of us can work together to get the best out of JP Estrella at Tennessee.
Yeah, I think so too. And I saw JP today at the facility, had a nice conversation with him as expected between myself and really anybody else. The conversation quickly went to golf, and he said his golf game's in a good spot right now. He's been playing well, so vibes are good. I'll be interested. Tomorrow practice is open to the media. It's the last practice of the fall or of the summer. I need to confirm with somebody. Usually they have a scrimmage. I'll be curious to see what his activity level is during that.
Masamba's still not on campus, right?
Correct.
When is he getting on campus?
I don't know. I haven't been able to figure that out. I was told originally that it was going to be in July, and that obviously has not been the case.
Yeah.
And the last I'd heard, if there was a definitive date, there was not. And I guess that was last week when I was asking that. And, I think the expectation is obviously at this point, getting here for summer is past. So I would just think by the start of classes in the fall here in a couple weeks.
Interesting. When we come back, we'll be joined by Graham Coffey of Dawg Central to get his take on where the Georgia Bulldogs are and Tennessee's Week 3 opponent. What's on the docket for Gunnar Stockton, his first full year as a starter for the Dogs. So stick with us. It's The Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app.
Catch up with all things Fan Run by subscribing to our podcast feed. Like, rate, and download the show from the Fan Run app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, is Tina there?
Who's this?
Yeah, this is Vince from the hit reality show Wives Don't Tell. Tina applied for our show to confess that her husband won't go to the doctor to get his erectile dysfunction checked. She said she's ready for a guy that can bring the heat.
All right, what the hell is going on? You're talking to her husband right now? Tina!
Well, she wrote the application that her man's performance is questionable. She's basically married to a coffee table. She also said, we live within driving distance to Men's Pro Knoxville, but he's too scared to get a blood test.
Oh my, she is done. She is so done.
Gotcha, Mike. It's Nephew Tommy. Ain't no reality show. It's a prank. Men's Pro Knoxville is the real deal, fellas. Local experts, test results in minutes. Call 865-544-8220 or hit menspronknoxville.com before your lady books a new co-star. Men's Pro Knoxville, making it happen.
Believe in family. Believe in your fellow man.
believe in honesty and an honest day's work. We do. We're Farm Bureau Insurance. And we don't just believe in Tennessee. We believe in Tennesseans. Farm Bureau Insurance, Tennessee's insurance company.
This is Baseball VFL Cody Brown. Farm Bureau Insurance is the official insurance for Tennesseans. Believe in me for all of your insurance needs. Give me a call at 865-992-3871.
Ready to launch your career? Axle Logistics is a leading third-party logistics company where excellence is an energy. With an award-winning culture, Axle proves that positive outcomes come from a positive environment and a work hard, play hard mentality. At Axle, the drive for success is infectious. And with an uncapped commission structure, hard work isn't just noticed, it's rewarded. For those with big goals and even bigger dreams, Axle Logistics is the place to start your career.
A brand built in Tennessee and born from the love of the game. Inward Half revolutionizes golfing comfort. Crafted by a former pro and dedicated enthusiast just like you, our luxury performance wear guarantees you stay cool and comfortable through every swing and every day. We're not just a brand. We've set out to create a lifestyle for those who understand that impeccable style and premium performance are a hole-in-one. Enjoy the walk-in with Inward Half.
Citizens National Bank. You want a bank that lets you bank when and where you want to. Your local branch, the grocery store, your computer, your phone, it's up to you. You want people who care about taking care of you and your money too. Citizens National Bank. Banking never felt so good.
Blackford Veterinary Surgery Referral specializes in surgeries not regularly performed by your pet's general veterinarian. They're currently accepting referrals from vets all across the country. With their newly renovated state-of-the-art surgery center and highly trained staff, clients can rely on professional and thorough care. If your vet says that your pet needs surgery or rehab, ask for a referral to Blackford Vet and let them get your best friend back on its feet. Located conveniently in West Knoxville. For more information, visit blackfordvetsurgery.com.
It's the Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app. On the line right now, old friend Graham Coffey of DawgsCentral.com. Graham, good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
Doing well, Chase. How are you, buddy?
You always laugh right before we get started on any of these because I just feel like you're ready to just say something dismissive about Tennessee football or the Heupel scheme, and I just gear up for it. It's like you really don't want to do it, but it always just naturally happens on your side of things, Graham.
I'm just happy to hear your voice, buddy.
Oh, that's nice. I appreciate that. And it's always a great time. Graham and I go way back, and Graham is also the proprietor and great reporter over there at Georgia covering the Dawgs at DawgsCentral.com. Biggest fall camp question for you right now, though, because I made the case last week. I hope you didn't hear it live, Graham, because I think you might have been just vehemently ill on the spot when my comparison of where Tennessee and Georgia are as programs and how similar they are in 2025 in terms of question marks, where they're strong, where they're not. And I made a whole case because I do think one of the more interesting things about Georgia right now is they don't have a defensive line that I think scares you in 2025. I think maybe if Damon Wilson's back, that makes you a little bit more anxious on the edge. We'll see what Gabe Harris looks like, but you kind of need a big jump in health from Christian Miller and Jordan Hall in the interior. And I don't know. I think with Tennessee and where things are in the trenches, I kind of trust Tennessee's offensive line more than I do Georgia's defensive line in 2025. Am I crazy?
You're not entirely crazy. I think so I look at Georgia for this season, you've got 54% freshmen and sophomores on that roster. Mm-hmm. Now, you also have more blue chip recruits than Kirby Smart has ever had at any point in his entire career. He's got 72 former blue chip recruits on his roster. So how do you take that young talent and get it up to speed at a pace that is maybe a little bit faster than what they've done in the past. And I think it's sometimes in the past they've probably had freshmen that were ready to play and could not get on the field because of the quality of player that they were behind. But there's also been cases under Kirby Smart at Georgia where, there's been a little bit of a longer developmental curve. That's somewhat because of how they do things as a program and the complexity of certain schemes on defense in particular. But I think for them this year, there is all this young talent on the defensive line that just has the prerequisites in terms of the physical specs that maybe other guys haven't in the past, even as successful as they've been in that position room. Like they haven't always had, I mean, they've had guys like Jalen Carter, of course, and like freaky defensive tackles, but they haven't in the last couple of years, like the guys they've put on the field on the defensive line have not been, I think, as high as ceiling players and as physically gifted as some of the ones that came before them, which was a high bar. But you've got Elijah Griffin coming in, like maybe number 1 overall player in the country, depending on who you asked in the last cycle. He's going to be with Isaiah Gibson, who kind of looks like a Michael Williams clone already. Like, that's a good starting point, right? And they've got other kids that are a cycle ahead of them that are not quite as physically, over the top as those two are, but they have a lot of this physical talent on the defensive line. I think that's the big question. From proven, I mean, they lost their 8 most snap-taking defensive line players from last year for spring practice to injuries and to draft. So those guys got a lot of work in the spring, but spring ain't fall. And so I'm very curious to see how they look and how quickly they can get those players on the field. Because I do think in some cases they are the most talented in the room. And that is even including Christian Miller and Jordan Hall, who are, not slouches in their own rights and were very highly rated recruits as well.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated because you look at the safeties, right? Like Tennessee or Georgia, they went really deep in the portal at the back end. We'll see what the cornerback spot is, because I think to this point, Robinson hasn't just run with that starting quarterback job, right? It's gonna be Dalen Everett and the other Harris, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they'll end up with. I think you may see Dalen Everett slide inside and play more of like a slot corner kind of role. Part of that will be, if it happens, it would partially be because he's very, very good in run support and kind of already tackles like a star, or however you want it, that tweener sort of position that everybody seems to have now between a linebacker and a corner over the slot. I mean, he's not a linebacker. He's going to be an NFL corner, but I think you'll see him over the slot in sort of big third down situations more this year. But no, you're right. Ellis is not totally taken over in any way. And I mean, Daniel Harris he had some issues in run support last year, but he is a really good football player and, is 6'3" and like runs a 4.40, and those guys tend to do well in football. So, I mean, I'm interested to see that at the corners, but I think they're in a very good spot in sort of the first level of the secondary and the first level with the linebackers, but you get into the safety position. I am curious. You've got KJ Bolden back there. He's a very, very good football player. He was very good last year as a true freshman. Kind of quietly, I thought outplayed Malachi Starks for most of the year. And I'm interested to see who wins that job next to him, because they brought in a bunch of transfers. They have some guys who, like, my money is maybe on Ja'Cory Thomas, who was kind of the veteran in the room and is going to be a fifth-year player for them and has been around for a long time. I think he played pretty well against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. He was kind of forced into action. So I'm curious to see.
Yeah, it's fascinating too when you flip over to the offensive side of the ball here, Graham. Everyone's looking at Gunnar Stockton right away, but for me, one of the things that I think you've heard a lot this offseason is that, well, Kirby won't have struggles running the football in back-to-back years. Like that's something that we're fixing. We're going to address that. That's not going to happen again. The problem I see though, when people talk about the depth from a season ago, I think you can make the case they're thinner than they were to me, where Josh McCray is now going to be an important piece to stay healthy and somebody who it seems like he's going to be someone who they can count on as a number 2. You would know better than I, but Roderick Robinson, someone that I don't think you can pencil in as someone who can certainly help you. Chauncey Bowens, we'll see. Cash Jones, a gadget guy who's helpful out of the backfield as well. Bo Walker, are you going to have to go to a true freshman? Is your third guy, maybe your second guy at times? Like Nate Frazier, we know is a great running back, but it was all on his plate last year. And I look at this room and I kind of still have questions about the offensive line for Georgia. Like everyone's looking at Gunner and the passing game, the drops last year. But to me, I'm not certain that Georgia, at least in 2025, has solved their running back depth issues. Like, like the Chroma kid who ended up going to Florida State from Lee County, like he felt like a more Georgia big time back they used to get. And he ends up at Florida State at the end. I don't know. I look at this group and I'm not certain that they have this increased depth, and the running game is just going to be back to what a lot of folks expected it to always be under Kirby. Is that fair?
I think it's fair to say they're unproven. Yeah, I definitely have questions about how this is going to look. I would push back on just the talent in the room. I think is probably more substantial than like the Roderick Robinson thing is definitely it's a big deal, right? Like if they can keep that kid healthy, I think it changes the outcomes at that position probably by orders of magnitude, just because you go back to fall camp last year and it's like, hey, Trevor Etienne is great. Don't get us wrong. But like the info that I was getting on a consistent basis from everyone I spoke to who was around those practices was that their best back was Roderick Robinson. So I think, yeah, like you really need him to give you something this year and stay healthy. The good news for them is that it's not like he's coming off of like a big long year, like a year-long rehab or a big knee injury or something like that we see running backs take for, kind of 2 years to come back from. I think he has a shot to be impactful right away. I think McCray is a little bit of a wild card. I don't know if they'll rely on him or not, but remember the name Bo Walker, my friend, which is, it's a good running back name already. So
he's Valdosta, right?
So he's actually from Raven County.
Oh, Todd Robinson's the Valdosta kid who played running back.
Yeah. He's up Raven Gap. I think he may have started his career at Cedar Grove, but don't 100% quote me on that. But he was kind of underrated, overlooked. There were some services that had him as like a 3-star recruit, I believe. Georgia wanted him and never wavered off that and got him committed early and kept him committed. And I'm not saying they wouldn't have liked to have landed another back in last year's class, because I think that's why they ended up going to the portal with McCray, was they weren't able to. But Bo Walker did a lot in the spring. We got a look at him on G-Day, at the non-televised G-Day. We were only allowed to take so many minutes of highlights or post so many minutes of highlights from G-Day. So I don't know if the world has seen Bo Walker yet, but he is a really good football player, and he's kind of, he's got that kind of Maurice Jones-Drew style build. I'm not saying he's Maurice Jones-Drew, but he's like 5'9" and 200 something pounds, and just kind of runs that real low to the ground style. But he's got more lateral quickness than I think I expected to see from him. So I expect him to kind of be a third or fourth guy in the rotation quickly. I sure we'll still see Cash Jones, but he's almost more of a receiving weapon in most cases for them. So it's definitely a position they've got to shuffle out and figure out. I think they like Bowens more than I expected them to, but the Roderick Robinson thing is a real deal for sure.
We'll get you out of here on this, Graham. So Tennessee, I think it's fair to say, last year pushed Georgia the most in the most sustainable way in 2024 in Athens, especially in the first half. That felt like the most complete Tennessee has played Georgia to this point as a whole. And look, they got shut out in the second half again. But I think the defense, one of the weirder things that ended up happening was Tennessee bet on being able to get home with 4, and they were not able to do that. And that was a surprise. And Carson Beck drops back to pass 40 times untouched. Like, that was basically the difference in the game, I think, in a lot of ways. There is a scenario where we talked about here on this show, and I'm sure you remember well, is like Boo Carter springs that punt return for 6, and Brett Thorson doesn't make a great tackle, and Jalen Murray hits that block. Tennessee's up 14-0 in that game on the road, and we don't really know how Carson Beck and the Dawgs would have responded in that way if that had been what ultimately happened. Tennessee ultimately kicks a field goal and goes up 10-0. But in your estimation, now that Georgia goes to Tennessee in week 3, ushering in a new quarterback here, whole heck of a lot of new transfer portal receivers. Hopefully the offensive line, takes a leap from where it was a year ago for Dog fans. But is there a part of you that now that this game is no longer a late November affair here in 2025, that there is a chance in your estimation that 2025 will be the closest game between the Dogs and the Vols in the Heupel versus Kirby era?
To be totally honest with you, that would surprise me.
Why do I bring you on? Why? It's just every year. It's just every year, Graham Coffey. When is it? Year 7? when is it ever going to be enough? When? Tennessee's in the blue chip ratio again now, Graham.
I mean, that was a really close game. Like,
You're so dismissive. Why do I do this to myself?
You're completely right. This is Ryan. I want you to know you're completely right. And Chase is like a game that was completely over midway through the fourth quarter. He's like, it was pretty tight.
Look,
yeah,
I'm not. Hold on. This is now an attack. This is a 2-on-1 attack on the Chase right here. Just hold on here. Like, this is not like Tony Romo where I'm like, I don't know. No, it's not that. Hold on. Come on. I think it was a more complete game, and I will maintain we have no idea how Carson Beck would have responded if he had been down 14-0 at home.
10-0. It was a 2-possession game, and I mean, they came. I'm not saying that they didn't need a drive when they got that drive down 14-0.
Yes.
And things changed completely, but they also, I mean, they were down 17-0 to Georgia Tech like 2 weeks later and won that football game. I mean, honestly, 2024 Georgia, for some reason, the only time they could play well was when they got down like multiple scores. That seemed to be the moment they found their groove. I just think in 2025, like, that game is so early, and I think both programs will be better by the time you get to November and have position rooms that they need to break in. You brought up Georgia's offensive line, like, that's valid. I think that Georgia's defense has a bunch of guys that people haven't seen start yet, so there's a lot of questions, and like, there's this kind of idea of maybe they're vulnerable there, but I need to see it from Tennessee's offense first before Georgia, with Aguilar and a lot of changes, just before I kind of like look at this and think necessarily that Tennessee is going to put Georgia's offense into a stressful enough position to where you're really kind of like start to worry about Gunnar Stockton getting tight and melting down in that game. Like, I think that, Georgia has the yearly tradition of letting Tennessee go up 7-0, and then,
God, that's so dismissive
from there.
That is so dismissive. The way you just read that.
They do.
The yearly tradition of Georgia letting Tennessee get up early for a little bit of hope, only to just curb stomp them, for lack of a better word.
Tennessee's been up 7-0 in that game, I think, every year since 2021.
Yeah,
22, I think, was 3-0.
That's true.
But to your point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Georgia,
Georgia
Georgia fumbled, and then Tennessee didn't really get anywhere, and then they kicked field goal.
My mistake. That's true. Okay.
Yeah. Put some respect on their name.
Either way, I guess I think Georgia's defense is going to be good. I think Georgia's defense is going to. I mean, their defense last year was their worst defense in pretty much any major statistical measure since 2016. And I'm not saying that like they're going to go back to 2021 supernova levels of playing defense, because that was a very, very kind of once in a decade college defense. But I think that they'll be pretty daggone good. And I don't know if they'll be that that good by week 3, but I think that's the thing for me in that game is I think Georgia's defense can probably play Tennessee well enough to where you can keep your young starter and gunner Stockton pretty comfortable. I'm very interested to see how he handles that environment. Nealand is another animal, and I will 100% stamp that any day of the week. He does have the advantage of kind of playing from behind in that SEC championship game, but that is not a Nealand environment. That is a neutral environment. So it'll be interesting and curious. And Georgia's got to make sure that they kind of I think they need to make sure that offensive line is clicking and that they've got something happening in the run game, because they need to be able to run play action for him early and often. I think not just against Tennessee but throughout the season.
Tennessee upsetting Georgia in year 5 here would be the worst thing for your text messages from me for the fall. Just as a heads up.
I mean, it's got to happen at some point.
It does.
Like at some point, it's got to. I think it's got to happen. Like, but I just don't. I thought
you're never going to predict it when Tennessee finally does it. You're never going to pick it beforehand. That's what we're learning here.
No. I thought Nico was going to do it. Like when I wrote my 2022 Georgia-Tennessee preview, and I broke down Heupel's offense, and I had a lot of admiration for Hendon Hooker, but I thought he was very much confined to that system in terms of what happened when pressure came and when first reads weren't open. And I thought Nico had enough just like physical gifts to maybe be the one that broke that. And I thought he did. I know y'all are not Nico fans anymore, but like his competitive kind of spirit in that game last year impressed me in terms of the amount of times he took off and ran into the teeth of Georgia's defense. And I thought it kept that game close and in doubt throughout a lot of the third quarter. So point being, I'm just interested to see the reboot. I'm a big Faison Brandon guy. Everyone knows this. I'm a North Carolina native.
Yeah.
I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina this very moment. I'm about to head back to Athens for Kirby's presser, but I have followed Faison since he was a freshman at Grimsley High School. I know some people in that area. Georgia's recruited that high school well in the past. I think he's the real deal. I think he's legit. I think he's got all of the tools. So he might be the one that gets Georgia in this whole Heupel system.
Yeah, and the most important thing, obviously better than Jared Curtis. So Graham Coffey, thank you. Thank you.
You have a great day, Chase.
Graham Coffey, Dawgs Central. It's always a great time. Nothing but optimism and the orange tinted glasses from Graham Coffey. In all seriousness, thank you as always, my friend, for the time. And we'll check back in with them again soon. So when we come back here, we will wrap up with some Tennessee baseball with Ryan Shepard, Rocky Top Insider, in the house, and what some big offseason storylines here still await the Vols baseball team and Tony Vitello's program. Stick with us. It's The Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app.
Congratulations. You found sports radio that doesn't suck. This is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Barley's has live music on weekends, general team trivia on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m., and now live sports trivia courtesy of the Knoxville Trivia Guys every Thursday night upstairs. The game starts at 7 p.m. and is free to play for everyone, so head on down to the Old City and show off your sports knowledge and win gift cards to Barley's. Use those gift cards to buy some delicious food and drinks, and you can take it all in with their wide selection of TVs and indoor projectors. Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria.
Yo, what is up with it, homies? Talk sports. That's the show you want. It's the longest running sports radio morning show in town. You want your radio shows to be fun, and that's what Talk Sports is. Fun. No weirdo callers. I think Tennessee gonna go 6-6 this year. No nerdy guests. Well, their receiver depth is a little bit thin. Just two of the most entertaining guys in town, and Bubba giving you what you need. Tune in 7 to 10 a.m. every weekday here on Fan Run Radio.
Hey Knoxville, Surfside iced tea and vodka made with real brewed tea is only 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar with no bubbles and no troubles. That's right, zero carbonation, so it's easy to sip and enjoy. Headed to a game day or party at a friend's house? Bring an iced tea or lemonade variety pack from Surfside or try their green tea and new raspberry tea vodka. Find the can with the sunset stripes this season. Surfside iced tea and vodka, sold at bars, restaurants, and stores near you. Surfside iced tea and vodka, sunshine in a can. Must be 21 or older. Enjoy responsibly.
Yee-haw! I've been hooting and hollering ever since I started betting with the VIP Play app. VIP Play has more than 200 leagues, every bet type you can imagine, live betting and live hosts, all with 24/7 support from real live people when you need them. Start betting better with the VIP Play app today.
Don't be a better, be a better with VIP Play today.
Download VIP Play today or head to VIPPlayApp.com. Make sure you use the promo code FANRUN to take advantage of their welcome bonus and so they know that we sent you. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-8899-789. Must be 21 or older and located in Tennessee to bet.
Are you tired of hiding your smile because of crooked teeth? At Knoxville Smiles, we've got the perfect solution. Invisalign. No metal, no wires. Just clear, comfortable aligners that straighten your teeth without anyone noticing. Eat what you want, smile with confidence, and see results in as little as 6 months. Call us today for more information about Invisalign, 865-539-1776. Or just visit us online at knoxvillesmiles.com. Smile brighter with Knoxville Smiles.
Rickard Ridge Barbecue, located in beautiful Cove Lake State Park. Rickard Ridge is home of the best ribs in the volunteer state. Smoked daily by pitmaster Mark Rickard. The barbecue at Rickard Ridge is mouth-watering, fall-off-the-bone delicious. Take the scenic drive up I-75 to exit 134. For directions and to look at the rest of the menu, visit Rickard Ridge online at rickardridgebbq.com.
It's a Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app. Wrapping up here on a Wednesday, Ryan Shumpert of Rec Cup Insider in studio with us. Ryan, on the Tennessee baseball front, one of the more interesting things now that everything is settled down here, I think we have a pretty good idea of a lot of different positions and where things are going to be. I think it's fair to say it'd be a surprise if Reese Chapman's not your starting right fielder in 2026. It'd be a surprise. I think if Jay Abernathy's probably not your starting center fielder. It would be a surprise if Manny Marin's not your starting shortstop. Third base, still some options. I would say I'd still be surprised if it's not Chris Newstrom at this point, but I understand there's a lot of moving parts there too. First base, I'd be surprised if it's not Levi Clark. Catcher, on opening day, I'd be surprised if it's not Stone Lawless. But the one that I just have no real feel for that I think is going to be the most intense battle is probably second base, right? And we could throw DH in there too. Yep. There's going to be a lot of competition there, but I think second base to me is the one that's most up for grabs. Do you agree?
For sure. I would say catcher, I think, is pretty close. Like at Garrett Wright, I think very much in that mix. But second base, I did exercise last week of the way too early projected starting lineups. And, it kind of felt just like a guess at second base more than anything. I mean, I had Ethan Moore there, but between him, Finley Bates, maybe Tyler Myatt can develop enough defensively to be an option there. Maybe Ariel's bat comes along enough that he's going to play short, and then you can move a Newstrom or a Manny to second. But yeah, that one, it is to your point, the one spot in the roster that truly feels completely wide open. Like we don't have much of an idea of what it's going to look like.
Go for it, Jack.
Who are you going to give left field to?
Right now,
it's got to be Ford, right?
Yeah, I mean, Chapman's in right field.
And then Myatt's DHing.
Or Blaine Brown.
That's the whole thing. It's like we just don't know. Myatt was mashing.
Myatt looked good in the summer league.
Here's my prediction on the DH. I think it's going to be like 24, where it's going to be like 5 guys rotating in and out of DH. That's my guess. I think you're going to see some Blaine Brown. I think you're going to see some Tyler Myatt. I think you're going to see some Garrett Wright. I think you're going to see some. What's the Blake Burke clone, true freshman that we just saw? Hoskins. Is that his name? Last name Hoskins? Evan
Hankins. Evan Hankins.
Saw one swing all the way in.
Yeah,
I think he's going to factor in.
Ignored that text you sent to me. Chase had crowned him the next Blake Burke after seeing one swing on Twitter.
That's all I needed. One swing. You know the rules. Go for it, Jay.
Oh no, I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay, I thought you were okay, but
no, I was just agreeing, like nodding.
Okay. Matt, are you in on this at all? Are you just completely closing the book on baseball? You're like, I can't do it. John did that on the pod a couple weeks ago when I was trying to talk about Ariel Antigua, and John just shut that down.
Yeah, it was very funny.
Shump loved it.
It was just good content.
It was good, and it's one of those things. Ariel, he's back, and I guess the one thing we should do caveat wise here is just because it's all settled right now does not mean all these guys are back. Like obviously Tennessee still has to shrink this roster, but it's going to get thinner than what you're looking at here. But have you heard any more reporting, Ryan, on just what that DSA number is going to do? That maybe it's closer to 40 than it is 37 come spring.
No, I haven't heard anything new on that and what that could potentially look like. And that's obviously a big X factor, I think, for, we talked about it last week, the kind of some of the culture guys, the Hunter Highs, the Blake Grimmers. I wouldn't quite put Jackson Walker into that conversation, but he's certainly a guy that I think you'd feel a lot safer about his spot. So, no, I mean,
Why do you feel safer about Jackson Walker?
Well, I just think I would say you feel safer about his spot if you have that, is what I was saying.
Gotcha. Okay.
He's different because to me he's younger, and I think he has at least more starting potential than Hunter High. Maybe not more than Blake Grimmer is a potential DH guy. That's the problem with you say all these DH guys. Grimmer's really the one I would say, and Wright, you're right too, but right. But yeah, I still think catcher he'll get a lot of opportunities. All these guys are lefties. So you don't have that 22 Christian Moore, Blake Burke, good balance of going. It's what they had in 24, where Cannon is a switch hitter, but really hit a lot better that season, especially as lefty, Chapman lefty, Bargo lefty. I think they kind of could run into that kind of issue again, which to your point could lead to them trying out a lot of things and maybe never getting into a complete rhythm.
That's my guess. I think Tony's going to do the rotation. It's going to be a rotation. The musical chairs at DH again in 2026.
Allow me to throw something out there that I'm not predicting, but I think this is what could throw a hiccup into a lot of things.
Okay.
Is if Jay doesn't win the center field job, would be Chapman playing center field.
Oh,
I could see that.
Yeah, I think it would be him or Walker.
Could Walker play right, or do you move someone? You probably put Henry Ford in right.
Yeah, if Walker doesn't win the center field job, I think you have a Brown or a Myatt. Probably Ford goes to right, and then one of those guys plays at left.
Interesting.
But that's the thing that, again, I agree. I think Jay Abernathy's the favorite to start in center. But his, I think, is more interesting what happens if not. Where like Chris Newstrom, he's a favorite to start at third. To me, it's pretty plain and simple what happens if Chris Newstrom is not the guy at third.
What is it?
I think Blake Grimmer.
See, that's another thing. It's like Blake Grimmer is kind of like on that roster bubble going into next year, but he also might be your starting third baseman on the best team in college baseball next year. It's really, the anxiety for these guys has to be through the roof this fall.
For sure. And I guess the other thing I should add to that too is like you also get to have Ariel play short and have Manny back at third. Like there's a lot more obvious fixes there where center, kind of like first, there's not a bunch of like true center fielders on the roster. And the ones that are very unproven. So, again, I think one of those guys will grab the job. But if they don't, like what happened in 23, everybody thought Kyle Bucker would take that job and run with it. He didn't. Tennessee was left to figure some things out. And where Tennessee has so much versatility, in a lot of positions, third base, second base, corner outfield spots, you just kind of have guys you can go to and they can play those spots. It's a lot harder to play center. You don't just have a litany of options that are capable of being, good defensive center fielders.
Where do you think the roster crunch is going to be felt the most over the next 4 months?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think because of that versatility, it isn't as simple as just like, the infield or the outfield, because you have so many guys that can play both, which I think from the lineup, the position player standpoint, that makes it very much a true competition. And the fact that they don't really have, Hankins probably has to feel good because they don't really have true first baseman on the roster. I think that also makes Jackson Walker feel good because he is more, I think, can play center field at a higher level. I just think so that aspect, I think, just turns it into true simple competition. Who's been best? I will say Tennessee signed a lot of pitchers who don't necessarily project as guys that start or that will have roles this season. Doesn't mean they can't, but a lot of guys that don't project that way. And I think just as we talked about a couple weeks ago, anybody that doesn't project to necessarily have a huge role this year. You just wonder. And so when you looking at it right now, I think it's 6 of those guys that I would say don't necessarily project to have big roles that are coming in as pitchers. You just wonder, I don't think all 6 would be making the roster.
I think it's going to be really fascinating to see because across the SEC, there's going to be, you saw the ACC, big winners from the roster crunch because Dalton Bargo is now an NC State Wolfpack here in 2026. I think you're going to see some really good players all across the SEC wind up at ACC schools, Big 12 schools, and I wonder what that does to the sport, right? Because there's just not enough room for all of these big time programs to keep all these guys. Like LSU and Tennessee are going to lose really good players that could help a lot of teams below them, right? Like I'm interested to see how much increased parity and what it looks like for the sport as it's continuing to grow in popularity and the SEC being as dominant it has been over the last 6 years. I wonder if that continues because you're not going to be able to keep all these guys and there's going to be a whole lot more talent dispersed all across the nation in college baseball.
Yeah, I think in the long term, for sure, it'll be really interesting. In the short term, too, I would be hesitant to think that the guys that are leaving Tennessee or LSU in December are going to be the guys that can push a North Carolina or Clemson over the top. I would almost be more intrigued of, does this make a Boston College or, I'm trying to think, a TCU or an Oklahoma State, some of these kind of marginal Big 12 ACC programs, does that make them more competitive and more NCAA tournament contenders against what is always a very, very large bubble in the SEC?
Yeah, we have no context for this. That's I guess the fun part from us, from the outside looking in, probably the very stressful part from Tony Vitello and company's perspective going into the fall. But man, I just think it's a good problem to have all across the board for where Tennessee's roster's at. I think they landed the plane. Henry Ford being on campus, how I felt about that. That's huge. Cameron Appenzeller, surprise addition here. Anson Siebert, he's back after a year. He was a big get last cycle to get on campus. So we have no idea. And Tuesday nights are going to be fascinating. Ryan is so locked in. Something he's been saying all summer is like, I'm just so glad Tuesdays are going to be treated as real games where we're going to have a real starter, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun when Tennessee's facing off with Belmont in 2026. You're locked in. Like, you could not be more excited for real baseball on Tuesday nights going forward.
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of Tuesday night baseball. Me and Tony have very similar feelings towards the run roll.
I think he mentioned it on.
He did.
Program. Yeah.
He rarely passes up the chance to talk about the run roll.
Yeah, I think it's you could not be. You and Tony are aligned in a lot of ways. This is one where y'all are just. I don't see y'all meeting in the middle there.
No, and look, I get why he wants it. I understand where he's coming from. If I was Tony Vitello, I would probably want it too. But as Ryan Shumpert, I don't need to watch 2 innings of blowout baseball on Tuesday night.
What would you rather have? That get changed or like the ETSU game if Tennessee's up 40 going into the third quarter that Tennessee can wrap up in the third quarter and kneel? What would you rather do?
I would rather have the run rule.
Interesting.
No brainer, honestly.
Okay, because you're already there in football and it's such a big deal and there's not as many games.
Not as many games. They're talking about 3 a year, essentially, in that perspective. And when that happens, one, it's easier. There's a lot more to do even after that football game than a Tuesday night midweek. So I can go ahead and start working on stuff that I'm going to have to do after the game. And then when the game's a blowout, I can, pay more attention to whatever other college football game is going on at the same time.
Jay, get you in real quick. What you got?
I prefer the run rule 100% more.
Interesting.
The baseball just normally just takes longer, I guess. I feel like college football's kind of taken as long as baseball now, but I don't know. Some of those blowout games that go into the 9 innings that are like 3.5, maybe sometimes 4 hours are rough. They're a rough watch.
Yeah. Well, a fun show here in the books here on a Wednesday right here on The Chase. Thank you to Ryan Shumpert of Rocky Top Insider in studio with us on a Wednesday. Thank you to Jay King. Thank you to producer Matt Bailey as well. The Drive with Russell Smith and the Bear is up next. Chase is back tomorrow with Ethan Stone of Saturday Down South in studio at 1 o'clock. Have a wonderful afternoon, East Tennessee.
The Chase on Fox Sports Knoxville and Fan Run Radio.